This is legislating a restrictive workplace culture with greater union involvement. As I said, productivity sapping. I'm telling you something. You can put all this legislation through the Parliament, the Voice, energy policy, industry-wide bargaining. I'm telling you something. This is the beginning of the implosion of the Albanese government. These policies will fail. Which then brings us to the biggest crisis. I know the Treasurer says that's inflation. Well, that's nonsense. What causes inflation? The kind of increased spending we've seen in his budget and during coronavirus. 50 billion more than revenue. And of course, the greatest cost to business and consumers, energy costs. So what's the government do? Blame Vladimir Putin and say that we've got to put a cap on gas prices. Yesterday at the National Press Club, Treasurer Chalmers was asked a simple question, audible to everybody. Listen to this. The questioner is Channel 9's Charles Croucher.
Charles Croucher.
Hi, Treasurer Charles Croucher from Channel 9. About 40 minutes ago, you said you're going to have a serious go of being as upfront as you can be with Australians. Given that, and given there's probably a one-word answer to this question, should Australians still expect that $275 off their power bills, particularly off pre-election prices?
Yep, it's in the budget.
There's about 4 words.
Laura's pointing out I was 400% over.
What? See, that's smiling. It just so happens that $275 isn't in the budget. Chalmers was caught out, rang the questioner Croucher after lunch to tell him he'd misheard the question. Misheard? You could have heard the questioner, yes. Was Chalmers hoping to get away with a porky, or doesn't he know what's in his budget? The media passed it off as a minor mistake, of course. It's a Labor mistake, they're all minor. Not as big a mistake as the fact that they can't deliver on a promise that they promoted to win votes, a reduction in energy costs. Inflation's not the dragon, it's the government's energy prices. Even the Australian Workers' Union National Secretary, Daniel Walton, has said in relation to the energy crisis there is, quote, zero space for delay. Now, the people who've created the energy problem, Albanese, Bowen, Matthew Keane in New South Wales, are now calling for relief. They're whinging. They're calling for relief from escalating energy prices that they have created by demonising fossil fuels for years and years. So this is the acid test for Peter Dutton. Scott Morrison raced off to Glasgow last year to back this net zero nonsense. Well, there's another one of these conferences, COP27, Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, on the 27th of this month, COP27, in Egypt next week. And they'll continue with this net zero obsession. The acid test for Peter Dutton is real. Tell the government and the nation, as some in his party and his party room have been telling him, that we're not going over the economic cliff with Bowen and Keane. Fancy an energy crisis in Australia when we are the resource capital of the world. Peter Dutton, make a commitment to use all our resources for cheap energy, which will grow the economy and alleviate the problems we now face. This country is in desperate need of policy change, but also attitudinal change. The policy positions of the Albanese government will lead to its implosion. When this happens, Peter Dutton should be left standing with a totally different set of policy positions. Peter Dutton, I'll say it again. There are millions of Australians out there without a political home. They used to live in the in the Liberal Party. Your job is to give these people a home in which they can feel safe, secure and comfortable, and you are the head of the political family in whom they believe. I don't think that's hard.